Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for December 5th through 9th, 2022. Well, we've been feeling intense square energy in mutable signs over the weekend with Mercury square Neptune and now Venus square Neptune. Our personal planets coming in to the energy of the Mars square Neptune, which is finally coming off, but Mars is still retrograde. What an interesting set of astrological energies right now. Super dynamic and super powerful. But these squares, immutable squares, bringing us back to the feelings of 2020, 2019, when we were early 2021. Um, so confused about what was happening and what's going on in our life, inability to plan. And indeed, it's been 2, 3 years for most of us before since we felt like we had a real clear sense of direction and knowing what to do next to get to where we're trying to go because we don't even know who we are, what we're doing. And this is a feeling of the mutable energies. But get this, Mercury, Venus is square with Jupiter. Just we're just now feeling the end of that happened yesterday, and so now this is starting to come off, but right when Venus was in exact square with Neptune yesterday, Neptune started to turn direct. So Neptune turned retrograde back at the end of June, and that was right around the time when we had Jupiter also turn retrograde. And so we've been in this we had last spring, Jupiter moving into Aries, this feeling of a push, life coming back. I'm going to live, I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, wah, wah, as the energies just really pulled back. And then now we've got this, we're still lingering through this Mars retrograde in Gemini, a mutable sign, and of bringing a feeling of just no direction and no clarity. And yet you can sense that it's coming and it's around the corner. So, really powerful for Venus to be square Neptune as Neptune turns direct in Pisces, because Neptune is in the last decan, the last 10 degrees of Pisces, and making its way again. Venus or Neptune in Pisces has been about revisiting the Piscean age and going into the darkest depths, but also reclaiming the magic and the truth and our spiritual evolution is really what we're claiming here. We've been stuck in a loop for thousands of years and far too long, and living in a life that is been dictated by false outside authorities. Now we know that, and we're coming to feel and own within our being the truth that the human soul in a body is the highest form of authority. Now, the Piscean age programming and the religious control energies through the Piscean age want us to feel that we have to pray, do something right, ask, beg, prove ourselves in order to get forward, move forward in this evolution. And so it's interesting because even those of us supernova souls typically don't buy into this type of programming that you need to suffer and sacrifice, but it's like programmed deep in our being. And when things go wrong, or you find yourself in that place of like, oh my gosh, help me. And we have to recognize and realize we're praying with ourselves. We are a fractal of God consciousness. We've been focusing a lot on how to get rid of the authority contracts and getting rid of our loyalties and getting rid of our outside contractual arrangements that pull our energy away and make us feel incapable on our own being. And we are really reevaluating and going to the depths of this programming and recognizing that we're working here with ourself. Our higher self is God's self and rolls with God. I mean, if you want to call it God or creation or creator, And so we have to completely reevaluate our way of interacting with the outside world because it isn't saying no to the authorities that gets us somewhere. It's saying yes to our true authority within our own being. I mean, quantum physics has proven that we're fractals of God consciousness. We have everything available right here in our very own body as the sovereign human soul in a body, an advanced human soul aware of itself as consciousness in a body. So we're understanding at the last minute of the end game that this is what gets us out of this mess. And um, no more fighting against, but embracing and empowering with creation. And that's what this astrology seems to all be about. So we're coming off with these squares, but now Neptune is direct. So that's giving us a turning of the tide type energy. But Mercury square Neptune, Venus square Neptune that we've just been feeling over the weekend, really bringing this up. The our where we've given over our whole mental perspective and our relationship to the feminine according to the Piscean age, the past, and these past patterns. So now that Neptune is direct and these transits are coming off, the next thing that's happening, which is actually right today, Mercury is going over the galactic center. So it's like coming out of this really intense, confusing, lost feeling square right into this conjunction with the galactic center at 26, 27 degrees Sagittarius. Now, the galactic center is a center of destiny. It's got an energy, a vibrational pull, a magnetic pull. And the energy of the galactic center is like, hey, wait a minute, you guys. It's Sagittarius. It's like way, way, way bigger picture to what's going on. And it's a call back to our original quest, which we never got off of really, but we did get lost in this persecution energy and persecution of the light and this subsequent giving over our power to some outside authority that needs to tell us whether or not we can spiritually evolve. The cool thing is that we've got our own spiritual authority within us that is perfectly and fully equipped, a part of ourselves that we've set up to help ourselves with spiritual ascension. We don't need anybody's permission. They want to tell us that it's going to make us crazy, it's going to hurt us, it's going to hurt other people for us to come into who we are and our true human full potential. It's a bunch of BS. And we have a mechanism called our guardian of the threshold that we've set up to safely climb that ladder, harmonized and peaceful. And so this is where we're at right here. The turning of the tide is about external authority versus internal authority. And it's the absolute key to moving forward in this evolution. And it's all on the table. So, Mercury today going over the galactic center, Venus takes her turn over the galactic center on the exact day of the full moon on Wednesday, the 7th. I hope you'll consider joining a full moon, Gemini full moon activation, really powerful one. Ge- uh, Mars is still retrograde in Gemini, but exactly conjunct this full moon. And that means Mars is exactly opposite the sun for this full moon. And incredibly powerful because this is our rearranging. It's mutable signs. And so that's always about making adjustments. And of course, those mutable energies can make you feel really lost. It's like the ego death experience of like, I have no idea what's going on. And everything that I thought I wanted or the direction no longer fits. And now who am I? And what do I do? And where do I go? And where are my people? And just this complete lost feeling. I mean, this really goes along with the Black Moon Lilith in Cancer, really bringing up our wound of separation, this delusion of separation. We know if we're directly connected to God's source that there is no separation, but we had to buy into that. We had to play that game in order to come into this earth evolution. And now's the time when we get to go home. And this is the turning of the tide. You can feel it. There's no other way to go. And so it's coming out of this hopeless, confused, lost energy and into this direction and purpose. And Venus on the galactic center for this full moon in Gemini just speaks volumes because it's really about our feminine destiny. It's our feminine part of ourselves and our relationship to our feminine that's been um, degraded, separated, cut into pieces. It's like all of the negative archetypes of the feminine. And really, the feminine is the source of life. And we have to get back in touch with this. We all have masculine and feminine within. We've all lived in masculine and feminine bodies. So it's not about men and women. It's like we've got to come to terms with our relationship with our feminine within. And it's on the table. And she says, look, I'm ready to get back on my horse of this greater destiny. I'm getting out of the dungeon and I'm going to climb up the tower, and nobody needs to save me because I can fly. So, this is the energy. So, that Venus on the galactic center really qualifies this full moon. And then we've got Mars, right? So, both our masculine and our feminine planets, huge energies. Venus saying, I'm not playing anymore. I'm reaching to the stars and I'm going to see things from that perspective. And from that perspective, we all go home at some point, and we're going home. And she's taking us there if we can come back into fold with her love right here in our very own body. So, but Mars is exactly conjunct, Mars retrograde in Gemini, exactly conjunct the full moon. And so that means Mars opposite the sun. And then the sun will come into its square with Neptune, making that connection back to this mutable T square at the middle of the month. So we're still going to have that play out a little bit more of that energy. But this Mars conjunct the moon. No, the moon is our emotions, and Mars is retrograde, feeling frustrated. It's forward motion, it's our masculine planet of action. And so now coming to the moon, it's like Mars has to face these emotions. So powerful emotions coming forward for this full moon this week. Just, and it's all about frustration around something we've lost, and it's been stolen from us actually. But it's like we've got to find it back. And that's our voice. It's only through the giving up of our voice that the totalitarian energies can take control. And of course, if they're just killing everybody who dissents back in the dark ages and the Piscean age, then there you go. you know, what do you do? And now it's like, yes, okay, so these things played out, but we've got to stop playing that story. And that's what this astrology is saying. We've got to get back on that one true destiny, which is just to move forward in this spiritual evolution and lead the way for humanity. Supernova souls have already experienced their higher intuitive knowing and light body and work with higher technologies on the earth in previous and lifetimes and ages. And so here we sit at the precipice, waiting for the revelation of the true human potential. And so much of this fear programming authority is that why they went to such great lengths to persecute the light? So we never ever go near our potential. And that's the only thing that'll get us out of here. We all played the game, right? We got to get out of this duality thinking of an enemy. And that's kind of this thing of like, well, I've got to wrestle with this authority to get permission to be in my own authority. And it's like, no, that doesn't make any sense, does it? That authority is never going to give you authority. Your own internal authority and your connection to God and source and creation is the only authority that's going to give you the authority. Now, this is what's so on the table right now because we got Black Moon Lilith in Cancer exactly opposite of Pluto. at 26 degrees. Now, 2 and 6 make 8, and that is a number of transformation. So we are transforming, attempting to transform where we've given those our power away to external authorities, Pluto and Capricorn. But Black Moon Lilith in Cancer is like, how did we get into this? It's the degradation of the feminine, breaking apart of that fountain of life. And so we've got to put her back together. And it's like, that's a big feat to go from all of this trauma and the programming's just, we're getting just constantly triggered back into this trauma programming. That's the role of the technological interference right now because nanotechnology builds up in the area of your brain that holds trauma memories. So keep this in mind. It's like there's forces trying to keep you in a state of trauma and fear so that you never leave your safe home. You never reach out. You never rise above. You never seek and find. And so it's all about, though, rewriting these stories and dropping the past. And this whole astrology is just like in your face, everything that got us into the dark ages and that has been keeping us from getting out of the dark ages. So Black Moon Lilith is exact opposition with Pluto. That's through the ninth at 26 degrees. And then they'll be to get in opposition at 27 degrees from the 13th to the 20th, meaning all of December is Black Moon Lilith in Cancer opposite Pluto and Capricorn. And now that Pluto's direct and heading into Aquarius, it's endgame. It's saying, we got to figure this out, you know? So you take back your authority and your power and you move forward. Or you, there's other options and timelines apparently, or not. Maybe where we go one, we go all. And that's why it's so incredibly crucial and powerful, the work of the supernova soul, to be brave and to stand in the face of this BS and still be in that spiritual empowerment. I mean, it's pretty interesting that all of the forces of totalitarianism control from the Piscean age were outside. Um, and we have like going against us. And now we've gotten to a place of freedom to the point where the control energies are trying to go inside our body to get our energy with this nanotechnology and transhumanism agenda. But really, if you step back, that means, oh, we actually already have crossed this major threshold where the external play is no longer working. And that means we've already won. This is the turning of the tide energy we're feeling. It's like there's no other way to go. And a lot of this has to do with a really interesting transit happening. Pallas Athene, asteroid goddess Pallas Athene, retrograde in Cancer, backing up into a conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. Now, conjunction is exact through the 9th of December. And Pallas Athene is about using our intellect to avoid. It's a beautiful combination of the best of the masculine and the feminine. She's a goddess that stands for justice and blind justice, but also strategy, you know, using the mind and the intuition together in order to avoid conflict. But there's also this energy of blind justice. And we know that the world doesn't keep going the way it's going. We've been in an upside down, inside out reality where good is bad and bad is good. And the people who want to do good have been called bad. And that was a Piscean age, right? It was like just absolute duality. But at the extreme duality, everything flips. And that's where we are. And so there's no avoiding this, and nothing can stop it. And we're starting to feel that momentum of like, oh, yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. We had to go way back in the dark ages and we had to go down into the depths, into that delusion and illusion of separation. But it's all about being able to shoot off in a new direction once Mars turns direct and reclaiming our voice and our expression. So Pallas Athene coming to Black Moon Lilith's deepest, darkest secrets, typically of the feminine. And then in Cancer, it's about that delusion of separation where she feels lost and alone and unsupported. And it's true because the masculine has been in our patriarchal system has been too busy oppressing to support the feminine, right? I mean, it's the whole agenda is to not support the feminine because if the feminine is alive and well, we feel connected. We feel in love with life. We feel that this world is working together with us. It's the fountain. And when people are in interconnection with the earth and each other and life and source, then it's really hard to program them with fear and control them because they have faith and they feel that love. So, see, it was the degradation of the feminine that got us into this whole mess. And now we're all looking within us, right? What does it mean for that Piscean age bullshit to play out within us? Where are we still allowing ourselves to be dictated by that programming, by the martyr, savior, um, persecution of the light, dark is light, light is dark. And this is the powerful place we're being brought to in this astrology. So, Pallas Athene catching up to Black Moon Lilith is saying justice is coming. There's no way around it, right? Because when we flip in our polarity, which is, I guess, in our DNA, which is happening right now. It's like then it's a completely different story. And we can't make that flip without a ramification in our physical reality. This has been the whole thing of the last 3 years. Saturn square Uranus. Where are the changes that reflect the energetic changes we've all been feeling? Why is our world just still status quo and everybody's still lying and cheating and nobody ever gets in trouble for being an ass, you know? And it's like, all right. And so, but this is this Palace-Athene magical situation here because it's like Palace-Athene is like, there's no way you get out of this and move forward without actual justice, where those who have perpetrated the crimes on humanity are held accountable. So it's going to happen. There's no other way around it. And it's that justice that we need to bring into our heart and soul and start loving ourselves again. In the Edgar Casey readings, what came through, one of the things is like the biggest sin that you can do is against yourself. And this self hatred and low self worth that's programmed into all of humanity, but particularly into supernova souls if you lived as a light worker trying to bring the light in the dark ages. And I know, supernova souls often have this like, "Oh my gosh, what so much karma and stuff they're working through in this lifetime." And there's a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is that we weren't energetically in the energies of the planet and on a soul level at a point where we could really deal with all our backlog of the most difficult karma. Oh, that sounds fun, right? But the other reason for this is really interesting because supernova souls often get into this like stuck in this loop of like, what in the heck did I do to deserve this? And those people who are completely disconnected and they don't give a shit about anybody else and their life's just flowing along fine, you know? And this is a deep mystery. And what another thing that came through the Edgar Casey readings is that there's these different types of karma. There's same karma where it's like, okay, you poke somebody's eye out and then you get your eye poked out. It's like that's the regular, tit for tat, somebody, because the definition of karma that we're working with here is somebody owing somebody, right? And that's what we got to get all worked out because we can't have those strings and ties as we make the leap into the Aquarian age. Think about it when you have all these things plugged in and your cords, to all your devices and you try to move them. And then they're like, and this just happens, if you've ever done handiwork with yarn or string and crafts, and you can see how strings have a tendency to get entangled. And that's what's kept us in these karmic cycles. So we've got it clear everywhere we have outside loyalties. But this is really interesting because something came through the Iger Casey readings where there's a different type of karma where the same thing will play out to you, where you didn't stand up for yourself before. And the same people, same players, we've all had this experience, right? It was like horrible, scary bosses or narcissist relationships or whatever. For supernova souls, you're trying to be a good person, you're trying to be in your light, you're trying to, and it's just like constant attack. And this isn't different type of karma that, and it might help alleviate and make sense for supernova souls feeling like they've had loads buttloads of karma to deal with this lifetime. And this is where you have been wronged, but you didn't stand up for yourself. You rolled over and played dead. And now we're having an opportunity. This has been our narcissist relationships, and our situations in our life where we say, actually, this is how I'm going to be treated, right? And we take our power back. And that's the feminine in all of us, right? Supernova souls, masculine or men or women, we've all had these situations where we've been overpowered by these bully energies. And so it's up to us. It's coming back to what we talked about at the beginning, standing strong and true in our own power and authority. And everything in the astrology is speaking to this. And it's on the table. Wow. And but I just think it's so interesting that that Palace Athene coming back, and it's like, yeah, justice is coming because you can't just keep going on this way. Things will flip again. And that flip is happening. This Neptune turning direct really feels like a game changer, the turning of the tide. Um, because Neptune is also making his way to the end degrees of Pisces, and this massive completion on all levels of the drama and trauma of the Piscean age. And a very important, this last part of Neptune in Pisces is going to be about reclaiming the magic of Piscean age, the mystical spiritual revelation, and the miracle healing. One of the messages is that has come through, which is really important for supernova souls to hold in their heart and soul and essence right now, is we've been in such this trauma drama state. And then if you think about it, and the energies are clearing and lightening, and then they're using internal, external vibrational frequencies and nanite technology in our body to try to keep us in a low vibration. But it's really important, and when you're in this state of feeling like everything's working against you, and it's just like, whoa, how am I even supposed to exist and live in this world? It's like, oh my gosh, especially as a sensitive soul. And then it's like we find ourselves waiting, and this is programming through in DNA, programming in ancestral lineages. You'll often find it where you feel the tragedy and trauma of your ancestors as well. And it's kind of like waiting for the next bad thing to happen, bracing yourself. And this is the shift. This is the turning of the tide. The energy that's coming through is like supernova souls. Hold in your consciousness how quickly things can change for the better. We've been waiting, we're like, oh no, here's the next bad thing that's gonna happen. I gotta get through it. And it's like, how quickly, we've been in that place of like how quickly things could just go to shit, and you're just going down and everything's okay. And then another shit storm hits in your life, right? And it's like, this is like supernovas. Just keep in mind how quickly things can change for the better. And that's the miracle healing that's coming. And it can happen in a moment to you. It can happen between individuals. It could happen in a healing session. It could happen in a dream, a revelation. But it's coming and it's available. And again, we can't get out of the Piscean age with all those contracts and them giving our power away. We also can't get out of the Piscean age until we claim back the miracles. And that's you, supernova souls. So, very powerful energies here. Um, the other thing about this new moon, so the full moon, or excuse me, the full moon in Gemini, um, this is happening. The activation, the actual full moon happens in the late in the evening of the 7th, December 7th, Wednesday, but in most of the world, it'll be on the 8th. The activation will be on the 7th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So I hope you'll consider joining because this is really, really powerful. Think about all this because the Mars retrograde, and especially in this conjunction with the moon, bringing up these intense emotions around where we've given away our voice. I mean, we have been living the Piscean age nightmare over the last couple of years of being muzzled and silenced. The propaganda and the censorship is off the charts. And it's kind of like, well, while you were distracted over here with global warming, um, you know, now we're going to do this. And it's like, whoa, how did we get here? And again, then the supernova souls and the human, then that self degradation, beating yourself up. And this is where we've been. We're just stewing inside with this Mars retrograde, stewing with this feeling and frustration over where we haven't been able to express ourselves and throughout the Piscean age. And now it's just such a big bloom, and it's kind of like, really? Is this really happening? And um, we're waking up to the reality of where we're at. But you know what? Coming back to this flip and the turning of the tide and the turning of the tables, it's like so many people know the truth. There's no way it can be hidden. Too many people know. I mean, and we don't even know the whole truth. We only know this much. Those of us who really feel like we know truth, apparently we're still going to have our minds completely blown around the origin of the universe, our true history, our true science, the technology that's actually available in our own body. Whew. I mean, the changes that are coming are so dramatic, and it's weird because we've been stuck at the gates, right? Like, that teeter-totter, and it's like, when is it ever gonna get to that point, that tipping point? When is it ever gonna come? And we're there. You can feel it and you can see it on this other level. And when Mars goes direct, January 12th, ooh, that might be a real shit show of all this expression that we haven't been able to have for lifetimes. And it's just brewing inside, and Mars is angry about it and can't do anything about it because he's retrograde. And now he's coming up to the moon, and Mars moon is just explosive, except Mars retrograde. So it's like a suppressed explosion. And opposite the sun. So the sun is who we think we are, our identity. Now, the sun in Sagittarius is about this quest, this greater purpose, our greater meaning of life here. Are we human or are we spiritual beings? And so it's like, this is all about getting on. It's like, this is all about getting on that original quest. Whoo, the goddess is rising, and you better watch out. You want to see some true justice. So it's interesting because we've got asteroid Juno that represents the earth. It's like a mini earth, and it's represents the energy of the feminine and the power of the feminine, and the power of the feminine in wholeness, all the parts of the feminine put together, all the archetypes of the feminine, all the negative archetypes, the positive archetypes in a wholeness. And so Juno's in Pisces. And so we're talking about reclaiming the wholeness of the feminine. And it's exactly 16 degrees for this full moon. Or I think maybe 15, no, it's at 15 degrees. So just 1 degree off this full moon that happens at 16 degrees, 2 minutes. And so 15 degrees Pisces means that it's in an exact square almost with Mars, the moon in a T square with Mars and the moon in Gemini and the sun in Sagittarius. And so, again, more T square energy and mutable signs. It's all about a massive adjustment to be ready when Mars goes direct. So it's kind of like now instead of just confusion and delusion and where am I going and what am I doing, it's more like, oh, I am dropping this shit. It's like the Tasmanian devil has come to town, and all that crap that isn't who I am is like being spun out of my field with the centripetal force, And so incredibly powerful remake of our personality constructs and dropping those old stories of the Piscean age and coming back and healing the whole feminine. Is that the miracle? So, powerful emotions of frustration and yet breakthroughs, turning of the tide, seeing that we're getting somewhere and that nothing can stop it. And this is an interesting shift because that's very powerful. Mercury on the Galactic Center today and Venus on the Galactic Center on Wednesday. Then they go into a square with Jupiter. So more mutable squares. So mutable squares all over the map right now. And Jupiter is at 29 degrees Pisces. And it's like, so Jupiter going into Aries and Mars turning, that happens December 21st, very powerful. And then Mars turning direct January 12th. We're incrementally turning up the volume here, right? And getting this party started. And enough wallowing in the confusion. And it's time to find the direction. The direction we need to find is our one true West, right? It's that alignment with the divine plan and with the divine timeline that's anchoring in on that December 21st moment as Jupiter crosses over the Aries point for the third and final time this year and gets into Aries. And it's like, all right, go time. Now we know where we're going. Now we know who we are. Now we know who we're not. And we're not playing those games and stories. And it's time to get to work. So Mercury will square up with Jupiter tomorrow, actually, and on the 6th. And Venus will square up with Jupiter on the 9th next weekend. We'll be feeling that on Friday, actually. So this whole week, mutable squares, square, 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 square. It's all about a massive adjustment so that we can be ready to ride the wave as this tide turns. And then on Wednesday, the same day it's a full moon, that Venus is on the galactic center, Mercury moves over into Capricorn. Venus moves over to Capricorn on next weekend, Sunday the 11th. And so that's going to be a big shift of energy where it's like, all right, time to just get going. Now, Capricorn is a cardinal sign, and it's about hard work paying off, and it's about step by step. Now I know where I'm going. I'm just going to put my head down and get to work and just focus. And that is such a different energy than what we've been having. And it's a feeling of like, wait a minute, there is a mountain and I'm on it. I just have to keep stepping, focusing, aligning, loving, breathing, knowing the truth of the miracle that we are here to be, that you're here to be. And when are you going to start treating yourself according? And that's what this is all about, you know, and healing that degradation of the feminine within each of us. So, really powerful because we've got Neptune turning direct, or Neptune has turned direct yesterday, and that turning of the tide. And so much mutable energy through this whole week. But then Mercury and Venus moving over into Capricorn, giving us that focus game plan where it's like, all right, just step by step. And that's a really good energy for us as we work through the rest of December. It's all about preparation for this divine timeline to land home completely in our lives. And doesn't that warrant a little bit of preparation? And maybe the last 2, 3 years of absolute confusion and ego death and karmic drama to be ready. I've seen again and again in supernova past life pictures that there's an energy that, because we've been so programmed because of the persecution energies, to not feel that we deserve, and to feel um, low self-worth and all that. And that's been such a huge energy with Mercury, with Uranus in Taurus. And we're working through this so that we can receive back our abundant wealth of who we are. But there's a feeling of that energy of not being able to find that direction. And now it's coming. And so we want to be prepared. And in the past life story that I was talking about, it's this picture of having to get kind of to a desperate place before you can allow yourself to receive, like feeling unworthy of love or feeling unworthy. Say, okay, we'll take this example because supernova souls are often healers. I mean, we just are. And whatever, however that plays out in your life, and whether you've been persecuted as a healer, the biggest, more profound healing you've done in a past life, the more difficult it is to find your qualities and step into yourself as a healer, right? But that means you have huge abilities. But anyway, say the healer that can't receive healing for themselves, right? And this is this codependent, like weird thing. Maybe it goes back to the Atlantean catastrophes where we feel like we, blew up the planet and we were told it was all our fault. But there's this kind of energy shift that has to happen in the supernova soul to be able to learn to receive and to feel worthy of it. And it takes a desperation. Sometimes it takes that place. And this is where we're at right now, actually. Today, we've got the sun in that trine to Chiron, and it's speaking of this fight for life and being in the place where you're like, all right, I have no choice. So I'm going to freaking bust out of this bullshit and allow myself to receive again. And the place that the supernova soul might have had to go to in past lives to receive love, to receive help, to open their heart, and in this life as well. And so the Chiron energy is this fight for life. And when you get to the end game, and when the organism says, all right, no holding back. We're going to take all of our leftover strength on any level and we're going to break through this bullshit for good. And so know that what you've gone through in this lifetime and lifetimes maybe just getting you to the place where you can receive back your glorious miracle energy. And isn't it time to treat yourself? If you are source, you're that fractal source. There's no outside authority you need to prove, or they need to say you're good enough, you did it right, you're initiated, you're all this bullshit. Then it's up to you to treat yourself the way source intended you to be treated. You have been bestowed with incredible gifts. You may not feel worthy of them or even have any idea you have them, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And they're not going anywhere because you've already achieved this in past lives and evolutions. And so to be at that place where you can humble yourself enough to love yourself, enough to treat your precious, precious gifts in the way that they need to be treated, just like our feminine, and the softness and the intuition and the emotion and the love that makes this world go round, which is kind of cut out so that the men could be, not the men, but just the patriarchal program could be in charge. And here we are, flipping the tables, turning the tide, and it all starts with supernovas, treating yourselves as worthy of the massive abundance that you have. And it's glorious and it's beautiful. And there's all kinds of messages about when this does get momentum and start moving, shit is going to change so fast. And there's a role for you that's already laid out. So stop worrying so much about exactly what it looks like or how to get there. Just put one foot in front of the other and have every step be in that alignment with this incredible divine timeline. I mean, this is the Christmas of Christmases. It seriously is because we know that um, Jupiter's moving back into Aries. We've been talking about it all year, but I didn't realize that it happens exactly, or we didn't think through that that's when the sun is at 0 degrees. They're an exact square when the sun moves into Capricorn on the solstice. Jupiter moving into Aries, they're cardinal signs. That means they're in square. So exact square at 0 degrees cardinal signs. And it's saying, it's like, okay, we're ready to roll. The gate's opening, but what's holding you back? What's holding you back? And then that sun square Jupiter resolves on Christmas Day, the 25th. And so that's when we really feel that motion. And it's like that miracle, that revelation, this magic of the returning of the light is real and happening as we anchor in this Christ consciousness divine timeline, where we as supernova souls say yes to our transmutation into the light. What Yeshua showed us was possible. Now, a group of us, very powerful. A lot of supernova souls were, because so you're here at this shift of ages, you were there at the last shift of ages. And that last shift of ages, there was a whole group of souls, thousands of souls holding space for that Christ event. It wasn't one person. That's one of the big lies, right? And all of those people that were holding space for that event, all those souls are now poised to come into light body themselves and demonstrate to humanity the true miracle of what we are. And we need to live that. It's a far cry from how depressed and alone and lonely most supernova souls have been feeling. So here we are. And I'm so glad we're here together. Thank you so much for following the work and being present. When you bring your energy to the activations and to the soul group sessions, to these videos, you're being a part of this group, you're helping all supernova souls. And so I can't do it without you. It's such an amazing journey as you bring these pictures and clarity. And I'm honored to be a facilitator to share these messages. They come from you. And so thank you so much. I hope you'll consider joining the full moon activation, Gemini full moon activation. Again, that's 11 a.m. Mountain time in the US on Wednesday, the 7th. And we will be celebrating this turning of the tide and getting the information, the clarity, the healing, the support that can help us uh, head up that mountain. So thank you so much, Supernova Soul. So much love to you. I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.